Steve Jobs said this: your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. I love that quote. In this broadcast, I'm going to talk to you about what I actually did with respect to codifying my own knowledge after having told countless clients to please do that. Because when you codify your knowledge that comes from doing the work that you love, then you can make sure that the impact of that work grows, and also the reward of that work grows, and that it will not stop when you no longer do it. Because at some point, of course, we all look at passing that work on to others. And I don't know about you, but I don't really like it when I see somebody who provides a particular service, let's say a marketer, who then doesn't have a good website or doesn't have good marketing for their own business. Or, the proverbial shoemaker who doesn't have shoes themselves that are, good looking and functional. So I have been working with clients for a good number of years on pulling knowledge out of their own brain and to make it into systems to train their teams. That can be internal teams, external teams, can be partners, can be collaborators, can even be customers or clients, depending on what the need is. And there's two types of knowledge: unconscious knowledge and conscious knowledge. Conscious is the knowledge we can think of, and unconscious is the knowledge that we have, but we use automatically. So, on to my story. Okay, Steffi, what have you done with your own knowledge? And I'm going to share with you 5 things that I've learned along the way. The first one is, even coming up with the title for this broadcast prompted me to basically confronted me with the word brilliance, because I have no problem to call your expertise and experience and wisdom and knowledge that you can't look up anywhere. I have no problem calling that brilliance for short. But when it comes to naming my own knowledge, including the wisdom and things that I have acquired over the nearly 29 years that I've been working now, that is harder. And so that gives me an appreciation. I had to put it in quotation marks, brilliance in quotation marks, just to give myself permission to use the term. So it gives me an appreciation for how you might feel when I call your knowledge brilliance, because it's so easy to say, hey, you know what, it's not a big deal. You know, there's bits and pieces that you can look up here, here, here. But the fact is, you can't really look this stuff up, not in the combination of the experience that you have. And the same is, of course, also true for me. So, yes, let's call it brilliance. And what we do here is we mine it. We mine it out of the brain, because that's where a lot of this knowledge hangs out. All the knowledge that we haven't written down or recorded on videos is basically still sitting around in our brain. And the question is, if you do work that you love and that creates an impact, how do you feel about losing a lot of that when you're leaning out of it? Or what also, the second question is, what happens to your life quality? This year, I was in Nepal for 3 weeks and I was in Germany for 3 weeks. My family still lives there. So, how do you manage to step away from your business without the business taking a complete nosedive? So, I will give you a metaphor, and I had a funny experience with someone. I shared the story that I was standing in Nepal at after several days of trekking and several hours that day of trekking, we came to this staircase that was humongous. It was made out of natural rock, but the steps were very steep, and literally they went from where my feet were all the way to the heavens, it seems like. And And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to go up these steps? And I told those friends, I decided that the only way I was able to do this, being exhausted already, is to just take it one step at a time, and literally one, and then two, and then three. And they were laughing about, how I gave them a metaphor that involved trekking in Nepal, and, how relatable that was. And they were smirking with me about that. But first of all, I have to tell you that that dream of going to Nepal, I let that sit for 4 decades. And finally, something happened that woke me up to the fact that, it's now or possibly never. So let's go do this. And but it is a great metaphor, whether those staircases are in Nepal or in the US or wherever. One step at a time is really the only way that we can do this. But it's so important to do it, because the consequences of not doing it are you're stuck at whatever growth you have gotten to with the bandwidth that you have. And it's highly questionable whether the business is, how easy or hard is it to pass on the business. And so then the third question is, what happens to your freedom? And I've sometimes talked about the rat race. You escape the rat race as an employee, as I did in 2005, and then you may find yourself in the business rat race. Now you're the business owner, and you can't get away from your own business. So one step at a time is the second aha that I had. And then the third one, I'm still a recovering perfectionist. I want to create amazing quality. And I know intellectually that, there is no perfect, but let's face it, it's sometimes really difficult um, to do that. And for some reason, I have a phone call coming in. Anyway, we're going to ignore that. And Robert. Okay. And so perfectionism is really often getting in our way, because it doesn't exist anyway, and it can be a great excuse to not release something, to not use something, to not take advantage of something as it is in the process of being made better. And so this is why I always teach my clients, and this is what I'm taking to my own heart as well, is to create a minimum viable product and actually already use it and then make it better and better and better. So I just recorded a video on, 5 ways to get started, and how that path looks like then from that starting point. How do you go from one step to the next to the next? So maybe you just talk on a video, and then you transcribe it, and then you use AI to pull out the main points. AI may not give you the absolutely best summary, but it's a great starting point, and then you can refine it, and so forth and so forth. And then you can put it into learning management systems, and you can add quizzes and assignments and so forth. But already in step one, you have something useful. You have an asset that you didn't have before, and that is something that's very important. So number 3 is ditch perfectionism. And then I already alluded to the fourth point, namely AI can make it go faster. And I'm going to pair that with tip 5, which is AI will not replace you, because it will not replace your judgment. AI can process lots of data very quickly, and that's wonderful. And we can use that to our advantage. In fact, we can use that in mining your brilliance, in pulling that knowledge out of your head and making it into training materials. And I actually teach how to do that. So AI can make it go faster. So let's say, as I said, you can record videos of yourself just talking about a subject. It's great to first create an outline. And that's exactly what I did. I laid out the Brilliance Mining Academy, which is growing more and more, but it's already useful. It's already adding value to people who are subscribing to this Brilliance Mining Academy. And then more and more is being added. The reality is, as people sign on to the Academy, they can't take all the courses all at once anyway. And so that gave me the courage to say, okay, it's open, and yes, you can partake in it. And you can give the early people always some extras and say, okay, I'm giving you extra one-on-one sessions or extra implementation support or something like that. But that means that, and that's exactly what I've done. So you can put your the early stages of your work are ready to use, and make sure there's ample, and I mean ample of value already coming to the way towards the people who are using it. But you can launch it and you can use it. So calling it brilliance is justified because it doesn't talk about brilliance a la Elon Musk or Einstein, but it's your hard-won expertise. It's unique, and that is what I was confronting myself with, to recognize. Just as you dig into it, you see there's more and more and more, but already the beginning of it is valuable. And then number two, take it step by step. I was giving you the metaphor of the staircase in Nepal, but the staircase can be anywhere, and it's just important to get started and to just take it one step at a time at some sort of consistent pace. Yes, you can take a breather, but keep going. Ditch perfectionism, because that's, I think, the enemy of so much good work is perfectionism. We just won't let go. We won't release it. It makes it slow, and some of it never sees the light of the day because of it. So that's something that I constantly have to fight in myself. And I don't know about you, but I see it in a lot of people I work with. AI can make it go faster. And we've never had it has always taken much longer to go and sift the main points out of transcripts. Now we don't have to hand pick it anymore, but we still have to know what's in it and compare it to the AI summary and make sure it's right. But and do some editing on it, but it's not nearly as slow as it used to be. It's much faster. And AI will not replace your judgment. But you can teach your team how you think your way through a problem. You can teach your team how you judge situations. And at least at the current time, AI cannot do that. And so what's really cool is, with all of this brilliance mining work, right? And that's what I do with myself too. I just want you to know that I'm there, right there with you in the same boat, pulling knowledge out of my brain, sometimes needing external eyes, fresh eyes, to help me discover what else needs to be pulled out, or to see, what's not clear, what needs to be amended, or corrected, or what have you. But anyway, um, when you take that brilliance out of your brain and put it into a training system, right? Now you have a place where you can add more and more to that, and you can make it better and better. And then you can use your time, on higher level problems. You can think ahead, strategic time for strategic thinking, new innovation, and you know the training systems that emerge out of this brilliance mining become the backbone, and in fact immortal backbone, of the training that you do. And of course you still do some mentoring on top of that. And you know as time goes on, you get a much better handle on how you actually solve certain situations and certain problems, because it's like this. I describe it sometimes like an onion. You have that knowledge onion. You take the outer layer of knowledge and you put it into the training system. Then you take the next layer and you put it in a training system, and so forth. And then you get deeper and deeper and deeper, and you get to this really deep knowledge where it's becoming even more interesting to you really put your finger on, well, how did I think my way through that? That's very fascinating. And so you first are able to basically train the things that you could do in your sleep, but they're kind of tedious, and you're kind of glad that you're able to empower other people to do those. And then you get deeper and deeper into this onion of knowledge, and you can work on passing on even more sophisticated concepts over time. It's an interesting journey. And at the end of the day, you know, if you're working in an area that you believe in, you do work that you love, then I'm guessing it's important to you to know that this work will exist. That's how I feel about Brilliance Mining. It's not just about the money and my freedom and impacting a few clients. What we really see happening is that we're going to have a community of people who are really aware of, how important this is, and it will start to take on a life of its own, and it will continue. And well, I'm curious to hear from you what you think about it. We'll have a Q&A this Wednesday. I'm going to put the link in there, and I hope to see you there.